Thriving Together, Stories from CCEJ, a podcast from the California Conference for Equality and Justice. Our mission is to educate and empower youth and adults to lead change for equity and justice in our communities. I'm Daniel Solis, your host. In this episode, we're going to hear about CCEJ's journey to a new name and a new logo, launching in October 2025. Our Executive Director, Reena Hajat Carroll, Chief Development Officer, Jessy Needham, and Development and Marketing Manager, Vanessa Chacon, share the history of our name, reasons a new name is needed, and the road we took to get us there. Let's listen.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today for this conversation. Before we start our storytelling, I wanted to have us each introduce ourselves and talk about our names, our gender pronouns, our role at CCEJ, and then how did we first connect with CCEJ? How long have we been on staff?
Happy to start. I am so excited to spend my Friday afternoon with the two of you. I am Reena Carroll, the Executive Director of CCEJ. I have been here for 5.5 years. My pronouns are she, hers, and I love this question about how did I first connect with CCEJ. It was actually through our CCEJ Building Bridges alum, Lexi Wynn. So huge shout out to her. We were at a community meeting. I was sharing with her about my background in diversity, equity, and inclusion, the work I did in St. Louis, and she said, "Have you ever heard of CCEJ?" I said, "No." And she's like, "You have to know about it." And then after that conversation, it felt like every single person I met said, "Do you know about CCEJ?" And then all the universes came together, and here I am 5 years later.
My name is Vanessa Chacon. I'm CCEJ's Development and Marketing Manager. I've been here for about 2.5 years. I use she, her pronouns. And I came to CCEJ through word of mouth. A colleague of mine met Jessy at an event, and she let her know they were hiring for a position in development. I looked into it and really connected with a lot of CCEJ's work, especially around youth and education and the camps and everything. Yeah, happy to be here.
And I'm Jessy Needham. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at CCEJ. I've been here for about 7 years. I first connected with CCEJ because the previous place that I worked, the Center for the Pacific Asian Family, was really interested in learning more about restorative justice practices and using them for accountability and healing for people who experience domestic violence and sexual assault. So Kimmy Manikis, a previous executive director, came and did a presentation at our work, and I was like, oh, it's in my neighborhood in Long Beach, and values aligned. So I've been following CCEJ ever since. And we're really excited to have the opportunity to talk today about a very interesting and exciting process that we've been part of for more than a year now.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we are going to get into a little bit about the story behind the reasons why we are going through a rebrand, including a name change and an updated logo. So what are some of the reasons you all think we needed a new name?
Again, love this question, Vanessa. I am so excited about getting a new name. I think there are so many reasons that we needed a new name. One being, and Jessy, I'll pass to you because I know you share some of these thoughts, but one being that California Conference for Equality and Justice is incredibly long. That alone just took me about 13 seconds to say. So when you're networking and you're trying to talk to people about who we are, they really stop paying attention because there are so many words and each word has significance, and it's just a difficult way to start a conversation when you have to say the whole name. And if you don't say the whole name and you just say the acronym CCEJ, sometimes people have no idea what you're talking about. And CCEJ are just 4 letters that, again, have very little significance unless you know the full name. So I am excited about a new name that is just going to be quicker to say and is profound and is full of meaning.
To add on to what you just shared, Reena, so we are a legacy, what I like to call a legacy organization. We have a really long history, almost 100-year history of promoting human relations, civil rights, bridge building between people of different identities here in Southern California, but also nationwide. We used to be known as NCCJ, the National Conference of Christians and Jews, which was founded in 1927. And that name held for a really long time until about decades later, people said, well, we don't just want to build bridges between Christians and Jews. We want to build bridges between people of all backgrounds. It might be across racial identities. It might be amongst people of different sexual orientations. And so over the years, this national organization had chapters that grew up in different parts of the United States. Unfortunately, in 2005, the national conference closed. And by that point, the name of the organization nationally had changed to the National Conference for Community and Justice. So that's one of the name changes. There were several intermediaries. And so the California Conference for Equality and Justice is the name that grew out of that time. It is a nod to the history of the organization. It's a nod to the fact that originally in the 1920s, there was a conference where people got together. But, we don't have just one event per year. We do have a convening, and that's kind of our conference. But we have so many things going on, events, trainings, our Building Bridges camp, which used to be known as Brotherhood Sisterhood Camp. And our name doesn't capture all of that. The other thing I would say is we've started to move our work not only within California, but beyond the borders of the state. And so by calling ourselves the California Conference, it really roots us to the place that we are in and we care about so deeply. But it also means that if we ever want to do work outside of California, people might have questions about why are we focusing on their community instead of California. Is there anything you would add, Vanessa?
Yeah, I think for me, from a marketing perspective, I think a fresh new name kind of that maybe resonates with younger generations and engages with communities that may not have heard of us before and just kind of opens up a whole new window into our work.
Jessy, I love that you talked about our history, our 60-year-old history, because when we think about all the branches that still remain, which to this point is only about 13 to 15 NCCJ branches all throughout the country, we are actually one of two that has kept the name Conference for Equality and Justice. Omaha is one. There may be one other, but every other branch across the country has changed their name already. So we were certainly in the minority.
Vanessa, can you share a little bit about the process that we went through to change our name?
Yeah, absolutely. So zooming out, we're going all the way back to 2022. Board and staff came together through a strategic planning process. From my understanding, it took months and lots of feedback from the public and everybody to create this really beautiful document that is our strategic plan. You can find it on our website. And in that strategic plan, what came out of that is also our new mission and new vision that marks 2023 with the launch and outward communication towards the community like, hey, we have a new mission and a new vision, and our new mission is to educate and empower youth and adults to lead change for equity and justice in our communities.
And one of the reason I'm interrupting you is because that was a huge step towards this renaming process. Like, if we had not had the creativity and the collective will to update those pieces, because those pieces were also pieces that we had kind of inherited from our national organization and had held on to for many decades. But the fact that our board and staff and our advisory committee were willing to really think about what it is that the community needs from us right now in the 2020s, and what we want to do in the future, it was such a nice process. It was not easy, but it was like a nice taste of what it will be like after our name has changed.
And, I really think what was beautiful that came out of that process was the addition of values. CCEJ never had values. So to this point, we were operating in this interesting way that wasn't grounded in values, but now we are very, very quick to point to our values around curiosity, around interdependence, around imagination, around care, around relationships. And these are the words and the concepts that helped us get to our new name. So that mission, vision, values package was just instrumental in this whole process?
Yeah, so in 2023 is when I joined CCJ and really got to help infuse the new mission and the new vision in all of our marketing and all of our messaging. And that was like a really great way to get to know more about CCJ and the culture of everything, everyone, and everything in between. For us forwarding to 2024, we contracted with an outside consultant to begin the next phase of the strategic plan, which is to get a new name.
Yeah, so we contracted with an organization, a team of professionals named After Bruce, and they have been working with us for basically the past year to come up with a very intentional and inclusive process for choosing a new name. So, oh my goodness, I keep looking at the journey based on all of our planning documents, and I'm just overwhelmed sometimes by the number of people that we've talked to about this process, intentionally and with a great effort to let as many people know that, number one, this is happening, but also that we care about what they think in terms of the future branding of the organization. We started with listening sessions, focus groups, one-on-ones. We talked to our entire board, our entire staff. We talked to members of our advisory committee, youth participants, people who have partnered with us for a long time, people who are new partners, our donors, our funders, as many people as possible to identify the themes that our work focuses on. And when those themes emerged, it helped shape the name options that After Bruce proposed to us. We had an internal staff team take about 2 months to review 4 rounds of name options, which included more than 50 names. Almost more than 60, I would say. We narrowed it down to 2 this spring. We had our board, our staff, other community stakeholders weigh in on the 2 options, and we selected the name. Reena, will you tell us what the name is?
So excited to share the name. And Jessy, I think at one point I actually did count. It was 75 names. 75 names were on that one PowerPoint that After Bruce shared with us. And so when we think about this journey, where first, just internally as a staff, we were playing and having fun. We were going to call ourselves Thunderstrike. Team Thunderstrike.
Right. That was our default name.
Our internal name, because we had no idea where this was going. We just needed something to help us be imaginative. And so to go from Team Thunderstrike to the list of 75 names that then went to 50, that then went to 30, and then 4, and then 2, to today, and our new name, which we are so excited and so very profoundly proud of. Our new name, which in just a few weeks will be known to the entire world, will be Confluence Rising. And it's such an important name, right? And we know and we understand that not everyone is familiar with the word confluence. And we know that the word confluence means the coming together, the flowing together of bodies of water. But in our context, it is the coming together of identities, of different lived experiences, of people's different races, sexual orientations, genders, religions, all the different identities that we as Confluence Rising, formerly known as CCEJ, have focused on through our Building Bridges camps, through our training, through our coaching, through all the programs that Jessy mentioned earlier. We know that when we bring all of those identities together, we rise together as a people that is one people that is combating hate, discrimination, bias, bigotry, all of the issues that we have worked so diligently and so clearly on for the past 60 years. And so Confluence Rising is the perfect name for us, and it really describes who we are, the essence of what we do, and we're just excited to share it with the world.
So we heard about the process, we heard what the big name is. So just going to shift a little bit. Can we talk about maybe some of the obstacles that we've overcome along the way?
Oh, no obstacles whatsoever. This has been the easiest process. No, just kidding.
The sarcasm.
It wouldn't be a real meaningful experience if there weren't challenges that we collectively faced. So I joke, but here at CCJ or Confluence Rising, we really see conflict as generative. And so, of course, people had different opinions about whether or not this was a good name for us. Of course, when we had multiple options, the other options were ones that people really liked. Most recently, we had to come up with a logo for our beautiful new name. And that was also a period of time when we gathered feedback from more than 85 people, and not everyone had the same first choice. So I think the first challenge, not so much an obstacle, because I do think that we moved through it, much like water moves through obstacles, is that we just wanted to make sure everyone was heard. And maybe not even everyone, just as many people as possible. So that when we collectively made the choice to choose Confluence Rising, when we collectively made the choice to decide upon a logo, at least people knew that they had been able to say their thoughts and share their opinions, even if their favorite choice of logo or favorite choice of name wasn't ultimately selected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, an obstacle, a personal one, right, is we're having a very real conversation and reflection on the journey, was around the word confluence. I got really anxious around people not knowing what the word meant, not knowing how to pronounce it, not knowing how to spell it, and just had much anxiety around how are people going to get to us? How are they going to get to the website? How are they going to get the email address correctly if they don't know this word? And I think the more and more that I started to use it, I thought, oh, this isn't actually that bad. This is just about familiarity. And the more that we present this to people, to myself, right, then we get more comfortable, and it's just a change. So, right, any change is difficult, as we all know. And I think that was the obstacle.
Yeah, and another one that comes up that was really like a learning opportunity is I almost feel like this is a strategic plan 2.0 for us, because the first thing that our strategic plan that we created, at this point now, 3 years ago, unearthed, I think, was a real question around what the purpose and meaning of our work was and what the need for it was in that moment. And there are certain things that are evergreen about the work that we do. So somebody recently asked me, it's Confluence Rising, why are you not focusing on equality and justice? And I said, we're still focusing on equality and justice. We're not stopping the work that we've done. We're continuing that work, and also I personally believe, but I think we collectively have started to feel that having a name a little bit more, I'm going to say poetic, poetic than just sort of the words behind an acronym. Because we could have chosen something like Center for Dialogue or Building Relationships, things like that, which are meaningful, and that's the core of our work. And we had a real debate internally about, do we go poetic or do we go straightforward? And we decided to go a bit more poetic. It's a risk because of what Reena just shared, what you just shared, that not everybody knows that meaning off the bat. But I just think the possibilities are endless because of the ways in which people have been responding to us when we tell them the name. And so one of the things I thought would be fun for us to share is what have been some of our favorite responses when we've shared the name.
And I love what you just said, because I think you're right. It's not literal, right? Like equality and justice was very literal, and this is poetic. And I think it's flexible and adaptable, and it will allow us to be that for the next 6 decades.
I'm trying to think of some things that people have said to us. First of all, they go for the water metaphor. People have heard of it as like a confluence of waters. And so one of my favorite things that happened over this past month when we were talking to people about the logo was I visited our Summer Youth Leadership Institute program with Vanessa. And we gave them basically a poll. We were asking them their opinion about the logo, but they hadn't heard the new name yet. And so we unveiled it and they all went, oh, and I said, and so what's a confluence? And they were like, whoa, we don't know. So I held up a picture of a river confluence, and immediately it was like the light bulb switched on. And I said, how does this relate to our work? And they said, because CCJ, or now Confluence Rising, but because we bring people together to talk about things. And then I said, and what is the rising part? Why did we choose that word? And they said, because we are the rising leaders. And I was just like, there was a moment, Vanessa was there, where I was like, oh, thank you, universe. This is going to be just fine.
Yeah, like all of the dots got connected that we were hoping would get connected. So that was, affirming. So it was just really nice to feel like, oh my gosh, they get it and they like it.
Right.
Yay.
One of my favorite responses was really an integration of my multiple identities, identity as a mother, as an identity of an executive director, of my social justice identity, and it was an example that I had never thought about. A community leader had shared with me that they had first heard the word confluence in a sports context, and it was in the sense of a football game in which a confluence of plays led to a touchdown. And as the mother of a son who plays flag football and a daughter who plays basketball, I see that right on Sundays and Tuesday nights at the games. I see how teams work together to confluence, right, to then score a basket, to score a touchdown. And as the mom who's on the football field running down the line as my son is scoring a touchdown, I see this. I saw it so clearly. I saw how confluence comes to play in so many different contexts in our work, when we're talking about humans and identities, but when we're talking about sports, when we're talking about science, when we're talking about just ideas. And I think it's been beautiful how we in the office have started to say a confluence of ideas, a confluence of actions, of activities, of things, right? And there is so much good use of this word. I think it's beautiful. And I think, again, as people continue to use the word, we'll see it and we'll hear it more.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What are your hopes for the future of our work under this new name?
I'll be honest and say that at this moment, we're recording this at late August 2025. And these days, our work for me, I'll speak for myself and say it's felt really hard to encourage people to continue, first of all, having hope that the work that we've done for so long to address racism, to address heterosexism, cisgenderism, sexism, Christian nationalism, xenophobia, all of the things that our organization was founded to do and has been doing are threatened, right, by rhetoric that's going on throughout our communities, not just at the federal level. And so it's sometimes very demoralizing to be trying so hard for this. But at the same time, Reena, you ask, what are my hopes, right, for the future? Mm-hmm. I learn a lot from the past, the people who worked to abolish slavery, the people who worked to make sure that women had the right to vote, the people who worked hard to make sure that LGBTQIA plus people have protection under the law. Those people worked forever and are continuing to work. And so I don't personally have the luxury to stop and just put my head under the covers. And so my hopes for the future of our work under this new name is that we get re-energized, that when people see our new name, they go, yeah, I want to be part of that. Somebody said that to us in a listening session. They said, we want a name where people will be inspired to join us. And just as I think in the 1920s, people were like, we need to bring Christians and Jews together, so I'm going to join the National Conference of Christians and Jews. And just as people in the 1990s thought, oh, I care about the community and I care about justice, so I want to get involved with the National Conference for Community and Justice. I hope that continues. I hope that people will continue to join us when we are Confluence Rising, because they want to be part of something that they know can't be done alone. We cannot fight for all of those freedoms and rights on our own. Mm-hmm. So that is my hope.
I think my hope for the future of our work, particularly under this new name, is to just kind of generate a lot more awareness, and that folks will hear Confluence Rising and immediately know, oh, I think I've heard of you guys. I think I've been to one of your events. I think I've seen your posts on Instagram. That would be awesome. But yeah, I think just finding our way in front of the people who need to hear it.
We've talked a lot about confluence, and I think it is important to focus also on the word rising. Jessy, based on all of those isms and the hate that you just described and the fights that we have to continue to fight, I think the focus on rising is really critical also right now, because we have to continue to rise, right? We have to rise above what these so-called values and norms are that are emerging in our society, which we know not to be true. We know the bias, we know the bigotry that is ingrained in the work that is being undone right now with this current administration. And it is so important that we again come together and we rise above it, we continue to fight, and we continue to create this better world that we all know is possible, but we can't do it if we're not in it together, we're not rising together.
What is it going to look like and feel like when we are Confluence Rising? That was something I just wanted to shout out after Bruce again. That was kind of how they started some of the listening session questions. They were like, what colors come to mind when you think about our work? And everyone was like, oh, I don't know. And we came up with some creative ideas.
It might feel weird and messy, and we might mess up and say CCJ and not Confluence Rising. I don't know.
Probably. We give ourselves at least a 6-month grace period. I think it'll feel exciting, but also a little bit uncertain, because I think that taking on a new name and not only bringing new people into it, as you said, Vanessa, like getting new eyes on our work, but also just bringing everyone who has supported us for these many, many years. I mean, I was working on a list of people that we're inviting to some soft launches, which by the time this podcast is out, we will have done many soft launches. And the list just keeps growing and growing, because I keep thinking, oh, I want to make sure that person knows. I want to make sure that person knows. We have such strong support in our community. We have so many, I like to call them CCEJ super fans. And now I would love to be able to continue to call them Confluence Rising super fans, because going back to what we were just talking about, we need to go on this journey together. We need to continue working for that world you mentioned, Reena, that is a better world together. And so I have a little trepidation that somebody we meet in the community might be like, wait, what? Did you guys used to be CCJ? And I'll say, yep, and we have a new name now.
Yeah, for me, I think it'll look and feel like maybe just a general sense of accomplishment. I mean, again, this is an organization with a lot of roots in the community, and being part of this new chapter of it is really exciting and, you know, rewarding to hear back everybody's feedback, I mean, in the community. And we've already, you know, before the official hard launch, we've definitely workshopped this name. Again, going back to the process of, you know, how many people had input in this next step. So I think just a general sense of accomplishment and like, we did it.
100%. I feel so proud. I feel so excited. I have shared with the two of you, and I have a big smile on my face right now, when people use the words Confluence Rising. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think that people get it. I think they understand, and it's just a matter of time, I think, until everyone knows us as Confluence Rising. I think we are going to have to do a lot of, hi, I'm Reena from Confluence Rising, formerly known as CCEJ. Hi, I'm Jessy. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I think that's going to happen a lot, and that's okay. And then over time, it will just be.
100%. Before we share how you, the listener, can support our work as Confluence Rising, I just wanted to also say, when I think about what people were hoping for back in the fall when we started looking at our list of 75 names, people wanted something that was going to be hopeful, that was going to be aspirational, something that we could all strive for. And I feel like we have chosen a name that captures that sense of possibility. And so if I think about like what it's going to look like when we have this new name, I'm so excited for the possibilities, not just in marketing, although that's super fun. Shout out to our logo, which is going to look great on all of our new Confluence Rising t-shirts, but also just the possibilities that we can all come up with together around how we truly do build that world where people live free of oppression and thrive. So I'm excited for that, despite the maybe little trepidation that we have. Vanessa is going to share a little bit about how you all, the listeners, can support our new name.
Number one way is always word of mouth. I mean, share our story, listen to our podcast, share this podcast episode in particular with your networks. Stay connected with us on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky. Also have pretty cool videos on our YouTube. Check that out. Looking forward to updating all of those. Will be at the handle at Confluence Rising. If you're listening to us after mid-October of 2025, our handles on social media are all at Confluence Rising. spelled exactly how it sounds. There's no silent letters. It's great.
I love that you just said no silent letters in Confluence Rising. I think that is such a beautiful opportunity to spell it CONFLUENCE, just like it sounds.
So please sign up for our newsletter and consider making a gift to fuel this transition. Your support really does help us continue our mission, again, that is to educate and empower youth and adults in our communities.
Before we close this out, is there anything else that we want to share with our community about this journey?
I think there's just so much gratitude for our community at large who participated in this process, who may not have agreed with us through the journey, gave us really good, honest, open feedback. I am so grateful for our staff. This was a huge undertaking. This is a really big change. I think people welcomed it, though. They, again, also gave really good feedback. Our board was incredible. They were supportive. They were the ones that asked really good questions, some nitty-gritty questions that we weren't thinking about. And they were just beautiful thought leaders and partners with us. And then just so grateful to the both of you, to Vanessa and Jessy. Your work, your stamina, your endurance in this process has been incredible. And I am just proud to have the two of you as colleagues. And this is going to be a part of our legacy with CCEJ, Confluence Rising. And I'm excited for us to be able to pass on what we've learned and what we've done with future organizations, and to really be able to mentor people through this process and assure them that change is possible. And we are a living example. And so I'm just grateful, and again, feeling so proud and really honored to have worked alongside the two of you.
I would just add to that the amount of trust that our community members have put in this process was not something that I take for granted. I think about the people who we do have in our community who have seen us through multiple transitions. And some of those people are alumni of our Brotherhood Sisterhood camp and now are volunteers with our Building Bridges camp. And some of those people are people who started supporting CCJ back in the 80s and 90s because they saw a lot of need for dialogue in our community, and that's decades ago, and they're still right here with us. And I just want to say thanks to all those people for coming along for the ride and trusting that we are going to continue doing this important work.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, Reena. Thank you, Jessy, for joining me in this conversation, for joining CCJ and being on this journey from 7 and 5 and 2 years ago. I mean, it's what a confluence of events. And thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being part of the confluence.
Thank you to Reena, Jessy, and Vanessa for this great peek behind the curtain of this interesting and in-depth process. We are all excited for moving into the future as Confluence Rising. Our podcast is sponsored in part by LA vs. Hate, a coalition of partners led by the LA County Human Relations Commission, who are committed to preventing and ending hate in our communities. Once again, I'm Daniel Solis, and we thank you for listening.